What's up, guys? My name's Brandon, and welcome back to Apple Weekly. In this episode, we're going to discuss even more new iOS 18.2 features and changes. We're going to talk about why iOS 18 features are already ruining iOS 19, big iPhone 17 leaks, why Apple's in-house 5G modem is going to be a big deal when it launches in a few months, a crazy AirTag story, and much more. And as always, if you want to stay updated with everything going on in the world of Apple, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, and also check out the Apple Den newsletter. All right, so this week was a big week. We got the release of iOS 18.2, macOS Sequoia 15.2, and all of the other software updates that we had been beta testing for months. And I posted 4 videos this week, so if you did not get around to watching those, be sure to check them out. They're all linked in the description below, especially the one that I posted yesterday about the ChatGPT integration and how that works on your iPhone. So if you have an iPhone 15 Pro or an iPhone 16 series, check that out, because I think you will learn something new in that video. But check them all out. They're all in the cards and in the description below. Now, after these software updates got released, Apple did push out updates for their work suite. So Numbers, Pages, and Keynote all got updates to include Apple Intelligence support. So if I go into Pages, for example, and I tap on the plus right here, you can see that we have Image Playground built in to this application now. And of course, we have writing tools as well. So if I select some text and go to writing tools, it now works inside of Pages. And of course, that will work the same in Numbers and Keynote as well. And one of the biggest changes in iOS 18.2 was this feature right here with Find My, where AirTags are now going to be able to basically track and locate your lost luggage if you have an AirTag in there. And this week, after the update got pushed out, we learned that United is the first airline that is supporting this feature. So already United is on board right away supporting this feature, which is awesome. I'm glad to see it's not like Apple Intelligence where they announce it and then it rolls out like next year. So that is good news if you fly United, and I'm sure a lot of others will follow shortly. Also this week, we saw that the hearing test and the hearing aid feature is going to be coming to Canada, as it just got approved this week. So if you have the AirPods Pro 2 and you're interested in the hearing aid or hearing test feature, just know that is coming a lot sooner than I thought it would. Now, as far as Image Playground and Genmoji go, I've actually been pretty surprised to see the response after 18.2 got released, because if you remember with iOS 18.1, when the Apple Intelligence features came out, everybody was upset. Everybody hated Apple for the wait list. The features were just not great. But I've been pretty surprised with 18.2 that overall, I'm talking about normal people here, not necessarily you guys in my audience, but normal people that I've encountered in real life and on social media like TikTok. A lot of people are actually liking Genmoji and Image Playground. And also, I'm pretty surprised to see that there are not many issues whatsoever, especially nothing widespread. So that's a big win for Apple, since it's technically only the second rollout of these Apple Intelligence features. However, I do have to say that when you use Genmoji or the Image Playground, it definitely does heat up your device. This is something I've noticed, time and time again. Even in the betas, I mentioned this, but even on the final release, if you use Image Playground for like 10, 15, 20 minutes, maybe more than 10 minutes, maybe like 15 to 20 minutes, you will notice your phone heating up and your battery life degrading pretty quickly or decreasing pretty quickly. And same goes with Genmoji. So just know that they are not perfect yet. It's the first rollout, so you're not expected to have amazing battery life when using them. But, I would expect optimizations to come in the future, like maybe in 18.3, 18.4, and so on. And you can see some of my Genmoji creations here. And when it comes to the redesigned mail application, this is where it seems to be split 50-50. A lot of people love it, a lot of people hate it. So let me know in a comment down below. Now that you've actually used 18.2 for a little while, what do you think about the new redesigned mail application? Like for me, I love it. I love being able to have the categorization here and being able to simply tap to go to all mail, and I'm not, missing anything. I just like how it's more categorized, it's more streamlined. It helps me with my ADHD understand where everything belongs. So I love it. I'm really mad that it's not on macOS, because, I was actually going to switch over to the Mail app if it was, but it is not on macOS. It's only on iOS. Also, this is not an Apple Intelligence feature. Some people thought it was, and that's because they were not using the English English language. So this redesign will only work, it will only show up if you are using the English language on your phone. And unlike the Photos application when iOS 18 rolled out where everybody hated it, you can actually revert these changes if you would like to. So if you go up to the three dots here and go to list view, there you go. You have your old school mail layout back. So that's kind of been the saving grace for people who really did not like this redesign in the mail application. If we head into the Apple Music application and go to radio, this week Apple launched 3 new global radio stations. So we have Musica Uno, which is Latin music, and then we have Club, which this is going to be electronic and dance music, and then we have Chill, which is just chill music. So those are 3 new live radio stations that run nonstop. So if you're interested in that, check them out. I really love the chill one there. We have a new state for the driver's license. So if you go into your wallet application and tap on the plus and then go to driver's license or state ID, you'll notice that we have a new one down here for Puerto Rico. That is the 10th state to get the driver's license feature. So that is what it looks like, and it will have a nice animation. And of course, this can be used at TSA checkpoints, select TSA checkpoints, and other places. So still waiting on Florida, but if you're in any of these states right here, you do have access to the state ID or driver's license from your iPhone, which is an awesome feature. And if you're into gaming on your iPhone, your iPad, or your Mac, Resident Evil 2 was just released this week. So you can see this is what it looks like right here. And there is currently a 75% off coupon going on right now until January 8th. So you can see what this looks like. It is quite a big download size, and you can see that it will cost $9.99 in game. It's free to download, but if you want the full game, it is $9.99 for now. Now, also this week, we saw a lot of people mad and saying that they're going to cancel their YouTube TV subscription because they hiked prices once again. So they announced that on January 13th, YouTube TV is going to go from $72.99 a month to $82.99 a month. And just for reference, YouTube TV launched in 2017 at $35 a month. So crazy how much that has gone up in price, but hasn't everything gone up in price by like 100%? Now, also this week, ChatGPT's advanced voice mode got live video support. So if I tap on this camera right here, you can see that I can look at, something with my viewfinder right here and ask a question to ChatGPT, and it will answer based on the view that it has from my camera here, which is pretty amazing. I've used this a lot today, and it's pretty awesome, I have to say. So if you are a ChatGPT Plus subscriber, go ahead and check this out. It is pretty cool. Now, also this week, we saw a very interesting remark from Mark Gurman, no pun intended there, but he said this: I continue to hear that the gradual rollout of features across iOS 18 to iOS 18.4 is leading to delays of some features scheduled for iOS 19. That will lead to a long-term rollout of features next cycle as well. Engineers are stuck working on iOS 18 projects when they'd usually already be onto the following OS. And honestly, that is something that you don't typically see from Apple, especially when it comes to software. So this is pretty concerning. I'm not going to lie. It is pretty concerning for Apple's future. Like, I don't really know how they can rectify this and make this better. It just seems like everybody around them is so far ahead that Apple has no choice but to, rush things out before they were necessarily ready. Like, maybe these features were intended for iOS 19 all along, but because of the landscape of the tech world, they had to rush them out with iOS 18. That's just my guess. That's complete theory. That might not be true whatsoever. I'm just thinking out loud here and saying that it is quite worrisome that everybody seems to be moving faster than Apple at this point in time. Now, yes, Apple is doing better than everybody else in some areas, especially with privacy, but still, this is pretty interesting to hear, and we'll have to see kind of how this evolves over time. And by the way, I can already see next year when the iPhone 17 comes out, a lot of people are going to be mad. They're going to say the same things they said this year with the iPhone 16. Apple's going to announce new features, and they're not going to be ready when the iPhone 17 comes out. So just prepare way ahead of time, because I can already see it coming. There's going to be multiple features that are not going to be there when the iPhone 17 comes out, and it's going to be round 2 of people getting mad saying, why release a product when the software is not ready? Anyways, we'll get back to some more news here in a moment, but I want to talk about the performance and the battery life on iOS 18.2 because it is a little bit different than what I discovered on the RC. So first off, performance is phenomenal on 18.2. Like, I don't think anybody can say that performance is not better here with iOS 18.2. Now, I did run a fresh Geekbench here and got a 3525 on the single core, 8718 on the multi-core, so a little bit lower than what I scored with the RC build, but it's still pretty strong. I mean, looking at all the other scores, we did get a pretty strong result there, and just day to day, the performance is great. I had some minor hiccups with 18.1 and 18.1.1, but nothing here with 18.2, so no complaints for me as far as the performance goes. Now, when it comes to battery life, I do think that battery life is better than 18.1 and 18.1.1. However, if you're somebody like me who is using a lot of Apple Intelligence features consistently multiple times a day, then you will see your battery drain a little bit more than you maybe had hoped for. So I noticed it especially with Genmoji and ChatGPT and Image Playground, of course. So anytime you're using those several times a day, your battery is going to, go down. So we'll have to wait and see over the coming weeks if we kind of phase out of using those apps on a consistent basis. But for now, battery life is good, but it's not so good when I'm using certain applications. So it's kind of complicated. So I'm curious to hear from those who do not have an Apple Intelligence device. How is your battery life? Because you won't have that problem. So how is the battery life for you if you are on an iPhone 15 or earlier? Now, as far as what to expect next from Apple, next up is going to be the week of December 16th. And I think this will be the final week that we get anything from Apple. So we should be seeing iOS 18.3 beta 1 next week. So we should be seeing watchOS betas. All the betas should come out next week for the 0.3 release. Now, once that gets released, we are not going to see another beta or official version until January 2025. So keep that in mind just ahead of time. Before you jump on board next week, just know that you're going to be stuck with a beta 1 of software for multiple weeks. So you might want to second guess that, when it comes out, if you're going to be considering installing that on your main device. All right, so now let's move on to the latest Apple news. And let's start with Apple's upcoming in-house 5G chip. And do not skip ahead in this video because this is actually more important than you realize. So let's discuss it. So Apple is planning to launch its first 5G modem in the spring with the release of the iPhone SE 4. This is going to replace Qualcomm's 5G modems. Now, this first generation 5G modem is not going to support the fast millimeter wave technology. It's only going to use sub-6. So that is 4 gigabits a second versus 10 in terms of theoretical max download speeds. But in the real world, those speeds are typically much lower. As you know, with 5G, it's not nearly 10 gigs of speed. So it's probably going to be a very, small difference, if a difference at all, between sub-6 and millimeter wave. And this modem is going to work with another new Apple component called an RFFE, or a radio frequency front-end system. And Gurman says that this first generation modem is expected to be in the iPhone SE 4, the iPad 11, and the iPhone 17 Air. And then he says in 2026, Apple is going to launch the second gen modem, which is going to be included in the higher end models like the iPhone 18s. And that, of course, is going to have millimeter wave technology. And then by 2027, we're going to see the third gen modem in the iPhone 19 lineup and the high end iPads. And this is where Apple is expected to surpass Qualcomm thanks to its performance, artificial intelligence features, and support for next-gen satellite networks. And here's why I think it's important for Apple to have these in-house 5G modems, because Gurman also says that Apple is currently discussing the idea of a cellular Mac and cellular support for a future Vision Pro headset. So just imagine a cellular MacBook. You can go up to the mountains without Wi-Fi and be able to connect to the internet. That would be pretty awesome. And same with the Vision Pro. That would also be awesome for the Vision Pro. But that's not the only chip that Apple is planning to use, because we also heard from Gurman that Apple is planning an in-house Bluetooth and Wi-Fi chip for next year as well. And this is going to first appear in the iPhone 17 model. So it appears like it's going to be in all the iPhone 17s. And it's also going to be in the next Apple TV and the next gen HomePod Mini, which Gurman did also say those are both coming next year. So we can expect to see a new Apple TV and a new HomePod Mini next year as well. And the reason this is so big for Apple is because when Apple can combine all these components into one, that means that we can not only get a significantly more slim design, like a thinner design, but also it seems like we're going to have potentially much better efficiency, much better performance, and better cost for Apple. It's going to be cheaper for Apple. Now, whether or not that comes to us, whether we get cheaper prices to buy it, that's yet to be known, but it will be cheaper for Apple to produce, which is also a pretty big win. Now, obviously these dates are pretty far out, but keep in mind, just in a few months in the spring, as early as March, is when we will actually see the first iteration of this 5G modem and this Bluetooth plus Wi-Fi chip. So I'm pretty excited for this, and it's a pretty exciting moment for Apple as well. Now, we also have some pretty big news about the upcoming iPhone 17, because if you remember a few weeks back, the information reported that the iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max will have a rectangular camera bump made of aluminum rather than traditional 3D glass. And everybody dismissed this, myself included. I said, that'd be so weird. Like, how is that going to be in the middle of the iPhone? We've never had a center camera on an iPhone. So everybody pretty much dismissed it because it's just not very Apple-like. However, Weibo user Digital Chat Station, who reports on iPhone camera tech, has corroborated this report, and he said that supply chain materials that they've seen do confirm the major camera module change. So a lot of people dismissed this rumor as being untrue, but now we have multiple people saying that, yeah, it's true. We might be getting an iPhone Pixel because it could have a very similar camera design to the current Pixel phones. And I'm not sure how I feel about this just yet. I don't really have a lean either way, but let me know what you guys think. Do you want to see this on the iPhone, or do you think it should stay similar to how it is now? And by the way, we also heard from Mark Gurman this week that the iPhone 17 Air, or whatever it ends up being called, is going to be about 2 millimeters thinner than the current iPhone 16 Pro. So it is going to be quite thin and probably pretty light as well. And then here's something I'm pretty excited about. The Apple Watch Ultra 3 is going to be coming next year, and it looks like it's going to have support for texting via satellite. So this report also comes from Mark Gurman, and he says that, quote, the satellite capability is slated to come to next year's Apple Watch Ultra. It will let smartwatch users send off-the-grid text messages via Globalstar's fleet of satellites when they don't have a cellular or Wi-Fi connection. And then he says that the other feature, which would monitor whether Apple Watch users have high blood pressure, may arrive as soon as 2025 as well, but it has been delayed before, with Apple previously aiming to release the tool last year. So we could actually see the blood pressure monitor and, satellite connectivity, which would both be a pretty big deal, especially for the Watch Ultra. And if you're one of the 17 people with an Apple Vision Pro, we might have some good news coming for the Vision Pro when it comes to gaming, because we're now hearing that Apple and Sony might be working together to bring their PlayStation VR 2 controllers to the Vision Pro. So the Vision Pro might eventually, hopefully soon next year, support those PSVR 2 controllers for gaming. And speaking of the Vision Pro, we might have our first real competitor to the Apple Vision Pro, and that's because this week Google debuted its operating system for future mixed reality headsets. So they actually teamed up with Samsung. So Google and Samsung are teaming up to launch Android XR, which is a new operating system that's going to run on Google's upcoming mixed reality headsets and smart glasses next year. And they already said that this headset is designed by Samsung and it's going to launch next year. And man, does this look similar to a Vision Pro to you? Because it definitely does to me. It looks kind of like the Quest as well, but it looks very similar to the Apple Vision Pro. Anyway, some of the early demos from people did seem positive. I mean, a lot of people seem to be pretty optimistic about this headset. They said that it is, lighter, it's more lightweight than the Vision Pro, and it has comparable software to the Vision Pro. We also heard that this headset is going to have environments like the Vision Pro, where you can kind of go between full immersion and being present in the real world. And to me, I think the killer feature of this headset, and eventually the smart glasses as well, is going to be Google Gemini support. So right from the get-go, Google is going to have Gemini support, whereas now with the Vision Pro, we don't even have Apple Intelligence support whatsoever. So having Gemini right there is going to be a big deal. And also with this headset, you're going to be able to download any of the Google Play applications right from the get-go. That's another big big advantage it has over the Vision Pro, because Vision Pro has like no apps in the App Store. And by the way, Google did say that this will be cheaper than the Vision Pro. Now, obviously we don't have any specs yet, so it's hard to judge this, product so far, but it is pretty interesting to see that we're going to have our first real competitor to the Vision Pro, because it looks like, Google is also going the spatial computing route that Apple did with the Vision Pro. So that's why I don't consider the Meta Quest a competitor, because Meta is focused on gaming. Apple is not focused on gaming whatsoever. Like, even if they're going to have the PSVR 2 controllers, then that's not their main focus. The main focus is spatial computing. So I see this as the first real competitor to the Vision Pro. So let me know your thoughts about that below. And then finally, we have another crazy AirTag story, and this time it comes from Reddit. So a man bought his teenage son an expensive electric bike, and since he's protective over his son, he put an AirTag and a TileMate tracker inside of the bike so he can keep tabs on him, and also in case it ever got stolen. And sure enough, a few months later, the bike was stolen from their neighborhood, and nothing was showing up on the Find My application until the next day when he got a ping from both trackers. The bike was about 30 minutes away from their house, and they immediately, once they got that ping on the Find My app, they jumped in their car, sped off to the address, and called the police. And when the police arrived, they were able to search the garage and the backyard, but they came up empty-handed. And the man also tried the precision finding feature, but it wasn't close enough. It wasn't within 20 feet of the AirTag, so that didn't work. But over the course of the next month, he watched the AirTag move around in his Find My app to the park, to the grocery store, to restaurants, all just a few blocks away from that house that they searched with police. And every time that his phone would ping, he would go to those locations, but he was never able to locate the suspect in time. However, he did have a feeling that it was parked inside of one of these 6 garages that he was looking at. And then one day, he was back near those garages that he was suspicious about, and when he pressed the find button on the tile tracker, he heard the audible alert coming from an open garage nearby. So he rushed over to the house, walked right into the garage, grabbed the bike, and he was gone. But the woman in the house spotted him stealing the bike and throwing it into his car and speeding off. Now here's where the story gets funny, because shortly after that incident, he got a phone call from the police, and the original thieves reported that bike as stolen. So the thieves reported a stolen bike as stolen. And just by coincidence, the officer on the phone was the same officer that responded to his original call the month prior when he reported the stolen e-bike. And since he already knew the details, that concluded the case, and the thieves now know what it feels like to be stolen from. But without the AirTag and the tile tracker, we have to give some credit to the tile tracker here. Without those, who knows what would have happened? He probably would have never found this e-bike. So like I always say, put AirTags in anything of value that you own. You will never regret it. Anyways, guys, that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed this episode. There was a lot of information packed in this one, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Also hit that subscribe button down below, and I'll see you next week.